Folks, thank you very much for coming tonight. My name is Richard. I'm sorry if I sound like I'm smoking 60 a day, but I think last night at Ravenhill did my voice no favours. On behalf of Glenabbey Sports Ministry Team and Christians in Sport, you're all very welcome. And whether you're an armchair sports fan or perhaps you're a regular team player, it's great to have you along. And a special shout out to our young sports people here at the front and their parents as well. Appreciate you being here. I hope the evening's going to be enjoyable, it'll be informative, I hope it's encouraging, and who knows, it might even be inspiring. It's going to take about 60 minutes of your time. I know the young adults have need places to be at 7:30. We're keen, particularly tonight, to hear from you, okay, and that's a big part of reading. So you've seen there's response cards on your seats. Those are very important, and Keith will explain why later on, and we'll come back to those. So the running order for tonight, it's a bit like a 4x400 metre relay. I'm going to lead off with some of the slightly tedious stuff about the framework for sports ministry. Hand over to Phil, who's from Christians in Sport, and he'll give us a bit of biblical grounding, talk about partnership and resources and vision as well. And then as Phil's hamstring blows up, because Phil's hamstring always blows up, we'll hand over to Keith, and Keith will talk about to a few people who very kindly agreed to chat to us about their experiences and examples of sports ministry, a little panel who we'll talk to. And we'll come back and chat a little bit about what we've planned for 2022, and then there's a bit of feedback and response from yourselves. And to a large degree, that feedback and response is the most important bit of tonight. So, before we get stuck in, I will pray. Heavenly Father, you are the creator and the sustainer of all things. Thank you for the many good gifts you give us. Thank you for the gift of sport and what it provides physically, mentally, and socially. Open our minds tonight to think about sport through a spiritual lens. Thank you for your presence. We ask your blessing upon this evening, and may your name be glorified. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. Right, this is unique in the church talking about sport. This is really quite and I hope as a result of that we don't kind of drop the ball here on this occasion. So I'm very keen tonight to know who's in this room and what sports we have represented here. So in fairness and completeness, I'm going to start with the three Muppets here on the stage. And just in less than 10 seconds, I'm going to ask you guys just to summarise your sporting interest. Phil, I'm going to start with you.
Great, yeah, so sport in less than 10 seconds. Rugby coach, former player. Unfortunately, injuries caused retirement and involved in a wee bit of CrossFit.
Fantastic. That was very good. Keith?
That's all right, yeah. I was going to witter on for a bit. Be punchy anyway, so I think I'm up here at the front, to be honest, just to make sure that sport is accessible to you all. So I'm a decidedly average golfer. I do a bit of walking now, so I did look back at last year and I did 5.1 miles per day for a whole year. That's not bad, at least, but that's only walking. Everybody can walk, so everybody can play sport in my book. And then I suppose I'm a bit of a sports fan as well, but I express that probably through watching Mark play rugby, probably as much as anything else. So great. Through the high school and now with Ballyclare Rugby Club as well. So okay, sports fan in that regard.
Thank you very much. Listen, I let you guys escape for a minute or two, not keep you sitting at the front. As for myself, well, I think my endurance running days and my high altitude days, well, they're a bit of a distant memory. Still do a wee bit of trail running, or maybe should I say trail plodding, a bit of hiking, sometimes winter mountaineering if the conditions are right, and I do torture myself trying to play golf, though. That sort of keeps you humble. So that's a wee bit about us. I'm quite keen to know about you guys now, so I'm going to ask you to kind of bear with me and go with me on this for a moment or two. Can I ask just with a show of hands, anyone who plays in a team or as a member of a club? Yeah, quite a few. Thank you very much. Any hockey players here? Hands up. Yeah. Okay, I can see Glenabbey. I can see Park. Any other teams here? Any shout out your team? What's the team? Rugby you play. Okay, and who do you play for? Antrim Grammar. Fantastic. What position? Second row. Oh, very good. You got height then. Fantastic. Okay, other sports. Any footballers here? We've got, Jerry, very good. And we've got sort of chimney corner represented with Kyle. And who's Darren Remay? Is it Brantwood or is it Dundell? Brantwood. Fantastic, thank you very much. Okay, this is what I'm not so sure about. Any GAA, any Gaelic, hurling, or yes? What do you play? Hurling. Fantastic. You're very welcome indeed, David. Good to have you along. Okay, what rugby players? We've got one from Antrim Grammar. Any other rugby teams represented? There's somebody getting a slap on the leg. Yeah. Ballynahinch. Oh, here, that's... Mark will play against Ballynahinch as well. Yeah, that'll be a local derby, I think, between you guys and a bit of a family one. Great, listen, thank you. Okay, any golfers here tonight? Yep, I can see. Okay, clubs represented. I can see Richard, and I know Garth's about somewhere there, so that's Ballyclare. Some from the north. Okay, what else clubs? Mazarine. Oh, yeah, down Antrim. Any other clubs represented? Where? Shandon Park. Very good. Oh, very posh indeed. Very good. Okay, slight change of tack now. Any individual sports? Let's talk. Any swimmers here? Few swimmers? Yeah. Pool or... Yeah. Oh, lots of swimmers. In the pool or in open water? Bit of both. Fantastic. You're a hardy lot then. Okay. Any cyclists? Road cyclists or mountain bikers? Yeah, sorry, I'm really struggling with these lights to see who's out there. Very good. Okay. Any fitness and gym enthusiasts? And I better include the CrossFit nutters amongst this. A couple over here. Yeah, any other CrossFitters? Yeah. Oh, Jim? Yeah, I see some down there, so that's great. Okay. Let's see. Walkers, hikers, mountaineers, or climbers? Big batch there. Bit of hiking? Yeah, great. Okay. Runners. I'm going to be biased. I'm going to spend a bit of time with the runners. Has anyone here done a park run? Yeah, oh, lots. Okay. Has anyone done more than 20 park runs? Yeah. More than 50 park runs? Okay. Hands are going down. I think you're last man standing here, Mark. How many? 106? Well, yes. That is a round of applause. Wins the prize. Very good. David, how many have you done? 50. Well, fair play to you too. That was a proper commitment. Okay. Who's done 10K here? 10K. And somebody just shouted a personal best time. Anything? 54? Great. If you're sub an hour, you're a legend in my book, Mark. Very good. Okay. Who's done a half marathon? Yes. Anyone done a marathon? Yeah. Chris's hand's still up. Any ultra marathon? You've all got more sense. Very good. Okay, we're nearly done here, folks. I'm now looking for the most unusual or niche sport that's represented here tonight. And I reckon the scale for this spans somewhere between golf and extreme ironing. So is there anybody in the room here who has a sport that's just slightly off the wall or slightly different? No takers. Where's Mark? Mark McElrath. Where is he? Mark, remind me. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Right, I think I'll give that the prize for tonight then for the most unusual sport. Thanks, Mark. Okay, and the last one now. Is anybody here brave enough to admit to being a self-confessed couch potato? Where's my wife? She should have a hand up now. Yeah. Okay, so listen, tonight we've got everything from a couch potato. We've actually got Commonwealth athletes with us tonight, and even Irish record holders as well. So we are privileged, and it's a very wide bunch. And thank you very much indeed. And thanks for going with me. That would have been a very lonely couple of minutes up here. Right, the vision for sports ministry. The vision is for God's word and Christ's name to become increasingly part of conversations in these less familiar places, such as our sporting arenas. We're going to work in partnership with Christians in Sport, and these guys have got like 40 years of experience in this particular ministry field. And as this is open to anybody, any age, any particular type of sport, parents, coaches, supporters, fans, players, it's open to everybody. And some of the aims that we're going for, first of all, we're looking to support and to equip existing sports-minded people to think thoughtfully and intentionally, being salt and light wherever we're placed. Sport's great. It gives us a great interface of connection with our community and our society. And you're on the pitch, in the gym, in the court. You could be in the pool, the pavement, or a peloton. Start lines, touch lines, terraces, walking in the fairways, in the surf, on the side of a mountain, dangling off a crag. All of these places are where we connect with others. And that's the next strand of what we're hoping to have. Connect. This comes in a variety of flavors. One is Connect events, and this is where there's specific sports-related outreach events, and they're organized to invite just friends and colleagues along, introducing them gently to the person of Christ, but very much in a non-threatening sporting environment. We've done a bit of this in the past around hockey, football, rugby, and golf, and we'll hear a bit more as the evening progresses regarding those. Just like a good ice cream there, lots of different flavors. The second flavor is Connect activities. And this is stuff that a lot of people just do instinctively. It's just about making friendships and building relationships along the way. And we've already had stuff at the church around fitness. We've had Renew, we've got BreakFit. In the past, we've had walking, running, cycling, and there's even chat about walking football as another possibility as ways of making friendships. But the young adults group in particular, they're way ahead of this one already. So they've already grasped this. And this is a wee photograph taken from a couple of weeks ago. And you see we had a mixture of runners and walkers, and with a few four-legged friends just to sort of to join us as well. And that all added to the fun of the morning. Next strand is connect teams, slightly more sort of subtle in that this is where people, 2 or 3 folk get together. They're maybe members of the same team or club, and they want to have like a gospel influence within that environment. And again, we'll hear more of that also. And the final bit of this is sort of other stuff. And say Keith and I were really stretching the creative thinking envelope to come up with that term, other stuff. But basically, it's where we might get involved in things around the church. It might be our community partnerships. And this is just an example of one of the ones that came up quite recently. Ballyclare Youth for Christ. We're looking to run Friday night football as an alternative to the drop-in centre. We were approached and asked, could we help? So who are you going to call with that? Well, it has to be Mr. Glenabbey Football, John Bamford. Quite quickly, John makes a few of his contacts, gets his little book out, makes contacts, and within about literally a few weeks, he's now about 6 folks signed up. They've had their safeguarding training all done, and God willing, in the middle of February, this is all going to get going again. So that might be just your first opportunity tonight, folks. Just mentally note that down. Possibility to get involved, be part of John's rota on helping with Friday night football. But ultimately, all of this, whether it's events, activities, or whether it's teams or any other stuff, it's all about the same thing. It's all about sharing the good news of Christ. Now, when it comes to sport, I do enjoy sport, and it's quite a wide range. And in my book, every year is an exciting year when it comes to sport. And I would suggest that the best dramas always unfold on the sports field. Anyone who saw the Australian Open this morning can bear testament. And yesterday, we had an exciting match at Ravenhill. Sorry, Mark, it didn't quite work out. But I say, you can see the excitement that sport throws up. And what have we had recently? Well, this is the kind of stuff that I've been talking about in the staff room. Euro 2020, so I was very relieved when Italy did burst England's slightly overinflated bubble. Yes, we had the Olympics. Shame it was behind closed doors, but still some really outstanding world record performances. Leona Maguire, first Irish lady ever to be selected for the Solheim Cup, turned out to be the standout performer of the week. And we'll contrast that with poor Rory. By the end of the Ryder Cup, he was literally in tears apologising to teammates for what he would describe as suboptimal golf. And what about Emma Raducanu? Well, she was a rising star last year within sport. A very impressive Wimbledon was backed up by a totally outstanding and quite unbelievable US Open. Andy Murray, other end of the spectrum, battling to play top-flight tennis with an artificial hip. I have to say I'm watching that one with particular personal interest. And now this guy, Tyson Fury, here's a guy who really does polarize opinion. He cited God's strength and God's will for getting off the canvas to defeat Deontay Wilder. And in the very next sentence of the same interview, I'm now off to get incredibly drunk. So there you are. But these are the conversations that we've been having in the staff rooms with our friends and our colleagues. And I haven't even mentioned Novak Djokovic, and I haven't even mentioned Ireland against New Zealand. So there you are. There's much stuff going on. And no doubt, 2022 will be no exception. When it comes to sport, there's much for us to be excited about. And whether the stuff that we're into is local and grassroots, and it's the under-13Bs that we're involved with, or whether it's global and elite, 2 things I do know, that God is present and God is interested. So with that kind of thought in mind about God's presence and God's interest, I'm going to hand over to Phil now.
Thanks, Richard. Underestimate just how big this stage would be, actually, running up here. Richard, I'll take that wee clicker off you. Thanks very much. Great, and as Richard's already said, my name is Phil, and I'm from Christians in Sport, and so what that organisation is all about is no guesses, is about Christianity, our faith, the good news of Jesus that we've just been chatting about, and being involved in sport. And what we want to do is, as Richard has just said, take the good news of Jesus and bring it into the less familiar world of sport. To have on the tip of our tongue the gospel ready to be shared with people who God puts us in contact with through all the different sports that you guys are involved in and all the different ways that you guys are involved in sport. And what I'm going to do now is just unpack a couple of little things, a few verses to give us, I hope, a real encouragement of why and how, and well, not all the why and how, but a real encouragement to go out there and share our faith in sport. But before we get there, let me ask you a question, okay? How would you describe the gospel? Not how would you describe it like word for word, what is the story, what's the outworking of the gospel? But if you just had to give a one-line definition on it, a one-line, what's the first thing comes to your mind, what would you say? Maybe say, amazing, really good news. Maybe say something that has transformed who I am. Do you know, I reckon Paul in Romans 1:16 gives the best one-liner on the gospel. Here's what he says. Again, remember in the gospel, this is what we want on the tip of our tongues when we're on the front line in whatever the sport we're involved in. Here's what he says what it is. I am not ashamed of the gospel, for it is the power of God that brings salvation to everyone who believes. Now, if you've been involved with church for a while, you can hear that verse. You've perhaps heard it before, and it can just go straight over your head. You can think, yeah, that's right. It's the power of God that brings salvation. Yeah, of course. But just think about what Paul is saying here for a moment. That the good news of Jesus, the story of his perfect life, of his brutal death, of his resurrection, is the power of the eternal God for salvation for everyone who believes. It's the power of God. What is power? Power, I think the dictionary definition, is something that power is the ability to influence something. The gospel can influence people, can change people. For what? For salvation. Oh my goodness, salvation. Someone's eternal destiny being transformed from hell and separation from God forever to heaven and total perfection with Jesus in perfect relationship from him. And who's it for? For everyone who believes. This is what the gospel is. And I'm sure that if you're sitting there, I hope that if you're sitting there or sitting here tonight, you wouldn't disagree with that. You wouldn't be thinking, I don't really know if it's actually that good news. I hope you're sitting here tonight thinking, oh my goodness, the gospel is phenomenal because of that truth, that it is the power of God for salvation for everyone. Do you know, I know that in my head. And so often, somewhere it gets lost from my head to my heart, because when it comes for me in CrossFit, in rugby coaching, well, you know what? Sometimes I'm not overly eager to be sharing this good news of Jesus. Do you know, so often I can think about sharing Jesus, that word evangelism, a little bit like how I view golf. Now, you're probably thinking, what on earth are you talking about? Now, I'm about to insult a few people here, but just bear with me, okay? Obviously, being involved in Christian sport, it helps that I am a big sports fan. And you know something? I really appreciate golf. I really, really do. I like watching it. I watch the majors, I say the Grand Slam, sure I know. I watch the majors of golf. I appreciate the skill that it takes. I've tried it myself, and I am hopeless at it. So I know that it is a skillful game. But you see, when it comes to it myself, playing now, forget it. Oh, I appreciate it, but when it comes to me, I do not want to spend my Saturdays running around in a pair of chinos and a polo shirt, getting bus carrying a big bag of clubs, hitting balls off into the rough all the time. When it comes to golf for me, leave it to the pros. Leave it to the people who are much better than I am. I appreciate it. Oh, it's a good sport, but it's not for me. And so often when it comes to sharing Jesus and thinking about evangelism, I can be like that too. I can be, you know what, of course, let the people who are good at it do it. But when it comes to me, nah. Just let them crack on. It's not for me. We're going to spend a couple of minutes now in verses in Matthew 28. And I think what we will see in these verses is that Jesus doesn't give us that choice. He says, look, here is what it's all about. And he gives us a great command and he gives us a great encouragement. So let's just read these verses. I'll read them out for us now. Hopefully you can see them on the screen. Then Jesus came to them and said, all authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Therefore, go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I've commanded you. And surely I am with you always to the very end of the age. Here's the verses right at the end of Matthew's gospel. And here we have almost like a final team talk of Jesus. He's gathered his disciples in front of him, and he gives them this rally call, the last words. You know what it's like if you're a player in a team sport especially. You're about to take the pitch. The coach brings you in, and he says, look, here is what we're going to do. This is a little bit of what Jesus is doing with his disciples. And look at what he says right in the middle of the verses there. He gives them a command. He says, go and make disciples of all nations. What's Jesus saying here? First thing he says, go. Go and get out there. Go and intentionally look to make disciples. Go. Other translations translate those verses as you go. Jesus is saying, as you go about your life in all the different areas he's called you to, and of course tonight we're looking at sport, as you're on the sidelines as a parent cheering on your children, as you are a coach alongside other coaches, as you're a player on the pitch, in the pool, wherever you're at, He says, as you go with the gifts and talents and passions that God has given you, make disciples. What does that word disciple mean? A lifelong learner. Jesus says, as you go and intentionally make people lifelong learners of him. Go into your sport with that purpose in mind. Pray for opportunities that we would have the chance to share with Jesus. Let the way you live and compete and conduct yourself in the hardest of circumstances that sport throws at us, by the way that we live, let that point others to Jesus. Say something of him when you get the chance. Share what you've learned at church the previous weekend when someone says, what have you got up to over the weekend? Share about how you're coping with that injury or that illness. Be honest. Say, look, I'm gripping to Jesus. He's changed me. Invite people to places where they'll have the opportunity to hear who Jesus is. Go. Intentionally go and think with that purpose of how we can share Jesus with those that he's placed around us in the area of sport. I wonder if you thought about that before. And I wonder if you tried, and maybe you think back over the last wee while, you think, Flip, what does the reality of this look like for me? Do you know what it looks like for most of us? Awkward conversations. Moments where we bottle it when someone asks us a question like, oh, I do not want to say this right now. Moments where we go for it and the other person's like, what have they just said? It can be daunting and we can struggle to know what to say. And do you know, I think Jesus knows that so many of us would feel like this, because look at what he says in these verses. He tops and tails it. It's like a phenomenal promise sandwich, if there's such a thing in the Bible. Look at this. Start of the verses. Jesus came and says to his disciples who are feeling daunted, who are feeling scared, who are feeling, how are we going to do this? All authority in heaven and earth has been given to me. And then look at that at the end that's just disappeared. I'll tell you what it says. He says, all authority in heaven and earth has been given to me, and I am with you to the very end of the age. Just think of that promise for a moment. Jesus, who has all authority on heaven and on earth, the one who has created the entire cosmos, the 150 billion stars in our galaxy, the 150 billion galaxies in the known universe, the one who is in control of every single one of those, the one who sustains every heartbeat of every person in every place, in every period of time that has ever happened, says, I am with you always to the very end of the age. He's with us through the power of his Spirit. When you're standing on the sideline, when another parent asks you, what did you get up to over the weekend? When you feel within you, right, I'm going to share about church, Jesus is with you through the power of his Spirit. As you compete in your sport, Jesus is with you. As we go and try to share the greatest news ever about Jesus, and as we think about how we're going to do that tonight, let us not forget the phenomenal promise that we do not do this alone, but we have the power of the one who has authority of all things on heaven and on earth right within us, right beside us, whose trailblaze is the way and who'll be with us forevermore. So let's go. Let's think tonight with that encouragement, with that command that Jesus gives us, and with that promise that he's with us, and think through how we can do this. And very quickly, here's some ways that we've done in the past here at Glenabbey. Here's other ways we would love to help and support you guys as Christians who are living in the world of sport to keep living for Jesus. Just a couple of things really quickly. On the website, you can see there, I'm loving this laser pointer, there's a devotion that you can sign up for. We've just launched a brand new one. You can sign up, and that will give you a weekly devotion kind of made for sports people on the day they're competing, to get them thinking about how they can be living for Jesus as they compete that day. There's also a podcast covering all kinds of different issues, again, for all kinds of different people at different stages involved in sport. And then there's also, we've called it essentials, essential resources that help us think through things like how to deal with disappointment in our sport, how to live distinctly in a culture of sport, all kinds of different resources there that we would love to help you guys as you go and do that, I suppose more individually in your own sports. Here's ways we would love to support you as you think about doing and reaching people together. A couple of things. Big screen events. which I think we've done them here in the church before, Richard, as well. What that is, and I'm sure we'll get chatting about it, is hosting a game of any kind of sport, and then at some stage have an opportunity to share our faith and share something of Christianity. You can see there are sports tournaments. Again, sport-specific tournaments invite people to come along to compete and play, and then again, at some stage, have the opportunity to share something of Jesus. And then last not least, again, similar format, there is a sports quiz happening. That happened in November in Cliftonville Football Club. We went in there with a team, whole team in the room. There's about 30 guys there and coaches. Did a great quality sports quiz with them. And then again, the halfway point, shared something of Jesus. And all of these things here aren't for us, aren't for someone else to come and try and say, look, here's all the gospel, believe it. But we want to come and share something of Jesus and say, look, think about this. Ask the person you brought you with, or ask the person who you're here with tonight, something about their faith. And what all these different events are that we're going to hear about in just a moment with Keith and the guys come up and share how they have done that in the past, is to act like a catalyst for gospel conversations, we hope. Why do we want that to happen? Why do we want the gospel to be the forefront of conversations? Why do we want people to be chatting about it and thinking about it for themselves? Because of Romans 1:16. The gospel is the power of God for salvation for everyone who believes. And we hope and we pray that as we do this, that people will come to know Jesus for themselves. So I think we're going to hear from some others who have had some of these events right now. Richard, I'll give this back to you.
Great. Thank you very much indeed. I'm going to get Keith involved now. And we've got a few folk who are going to come and have a bit of a chat with us and talk about some of their examples and some of their experiences in sports ministry. Can I ask you to give them a bit of encouragement here as they come up on stage, please? Put you here, Robert. Is that okay?
Okay, well, thank you very much. And so I'll grab wee seats or whatever anyway. So I'll take a wee seat. Richard is right. It's strange sort of like looking out because you see bright lights and not much else. So we think you're out there, but we can't really see.
All I can see was your forehead, Keith.
Well, thank you for that. I was wondering how long it would get before Richard started, but there we go. The tone's been set anyway, but I'm in charge of the interview, that's all I say. So I'm going to get him on the long grass, I would imagine. So if I could just say, so obviously we have Richard still on the screen. He's on on a stool, should I say. Richard is still up here because of his involvement at Royal Portrush Golf Club, and that's going to be one of our areas that we will be talking about shortly, as is Robert Kennedy, who is a visitor to us this evening. So, Robert, you're particularly welcome, and it's lovely to have you along this evening. Next to me, then, I have got Emma Corbett, and Emma is a member here. So, and Madeline is obviously somebody well known to us, and the staff here with me as well. So, and then we've got Andy Seymour basically down at the far end. So, these are the folks that we have anyway. I'll be doing a little bit of an interview just over the next sort of 15 or 20 minutes or so. So, Emma, hello.
Hello.
You're going to get picked on first, okay? So, would love to just find out, I suppose, a little bit about you to begin with. So, may I start with, what age are you?
Okay, I'm 22.
You're 22, okay. Now, we are going to talk a little bit about something that you did with hockey in a minute or two. So how long ago did you do that?
Oh, flip. It was before the pandemic. I would say maybe a year before the pandemic. Maybe not half a year before the pandemic.
Okay, so we're going to do the maths on that anyway. So you're what age at the minute?
22.
Okay, so let's say 3 off that anyway. We're going to say,
19.
So stuff you were doing whenever you were around about 19, okay?
Yeah.
So I would have to say that's the first point I'm going to make. Anyway, I think this is whenever she does tell her wee story, I think this is pretty impressive for a 19-year-old. So tell me a little bit about you particularly. What are you doing now?
Okay, I'm in my final year of university studying interaction design. So semester 2 of that. Yeah, interaction design is basically like web and app design.
Thank you. That was. I think she saw that going over my head for a moment there. So super. Okay, thank you. Lovely. All right. That's as much as I'm going to get in that point anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get on to why we have asked you to be part of our panel. So back 3 years ago, then you did something. Tell us a little bit about that, please.
Okay, yeah, so I've been involved with Christians in Sport for a wee while, summer camps, and I went away with them on European Sports Mission. So Glenabbey was starting a Christians in Sports group, which I became a part of here, and basically, we decided to run an event, and considering my sport is hockey, I had to arrange a hockey event, and it was something we were really looking forward to, and it was something I was kind of worried about. It was a bit difficult to get arranged at the start. There's lots of people dropping out, we couldn't find a goalie, and things like that, so there was a lot of prayer needed for that, but the prayer was answered because the event ended up happening. And obviously having someone come and talk at half-time of a hockey match isn't typical. It's not your normal sporting culture. After a hockey match, either you'd go on and get on with your day, or else you'd maybe go to a pub, have a couple of drinks, and that would be what the average hockey team would sort of do. So this is really different. And I was thinking, would people think I'm a real big Bible basher having this event? I was really worried about what people would think of that, but Phil came and he did an absolute brilliant talk. It was really light and it was really interactive. He was asking the girls some questions, getting them involved, and I think everyone really enjoyed it. And the way he delivered it was really good. I didn't want people to think I was forcing them to listen to my beliefs or what I had to say, but all the girls really listened to what Phil had to say. Now, there were a couple of people that were laughing and making jokes, and I was sitting there like, oh no, this is going too bad. But at the end of it, they all said, Emma, like, that was really good. They really enjoyed it. And I think people understood me better, and they understood my beliefs, and that Christianity isn't something that you need to be in this church building for. It's not something really serious. It's not something you need to be dressed a certain way to listen to. But instead, having someone talk and spread a gospel message at halftime of a hockey match was something that you can do, and the gospel's to everyone, and it's for everyone anywhere. So yeah, having a hockey match set a really good foundation, and it allowed so many opportunities for conversation to happen in the next couple of weeks. I remember one situation, we were driving up to Korean for a hockey match, and it was about a week, I think, a week or two after the event, and the girl turned around to me and just says, you know, Emma, I really want to get back to church. I haven't been to church in ages. And I don't think that conversation wouldn't have happened if Phil wasn't able to come and do a talk at halftime the way he did. So yeah, it just set a really good foundation for opportunities, and I think God really spoke to a lot of the girls that day. And like Phil said earlier, it wasn't saying like you have to believe this and you have to believe it now, but it just made them have some thoughts ponder in their heads for the rest of the week, and that was shown through that conversation, other conversations I had after. So yeah, that event was great. Actually, I think maybe it was a bit before 3 years, because I remember we had another event before the pandemic started, and we invited the hockey team to Glenabbey for a break fit class. And out of the whole hockey team, like 2 people showed up, and we had a big spread of food. But I mean, for the 2 people that showed up at the hockey team, they were in a church building when they could have been somewhere else on a Thursday night, doing whatever they wanted to do. So even though it was only 2 people, that was still a great success, in my opinion. So yeah, that's pretty much what's been happening.
Wow, just a fabulous story of your involvement with your teammates, I would have to say. So very, very encouraging. Thank you for that. Just as you reflect on that, is there anything you maybe have learned from it, or anything that you'd like to share?
Yeah, so I spoke a wee bit there about how nervous I was for the event, and what people were going to think, how it was going to go. But what I learned mainly through it was to be bold and not to be scared. And that's for all of you guys here. If you are thinking of events or even people in your team that you think you could meet up with, have a coffee with, and be intentional with, like, don't be scared to do that. Because what is the worst that's going to happen? I don't know what was going through my head and what I thought was the worst scenario that was going to happen, but I was really worried for it. And as soon as it was over, I was like, Emma, why were you so worried? That was completely fine. I know God was with me when that whole event was going on and everything was happening. So yeah, I learned to just really be bold. And then I was disheartened when afterwards only a couple of people came to the Break Fit event on that Thursday night. But then I also learned from that, like, 100 people could have been there that night. And from those 2 people coming, that, like, God could have impacted them way more than if 100 other random people came. So yeah, they're my main lessons I learned.
Emma, thank you so much. That was really fabulous. So that's probably worth a wee round of applause, I would have thought. Thank you. So Emma gets to sit and relax now, so while I go and pick on somebody else. So, Madeline, you'd be next to get picked on. So Madeline, obviously you are here on staff. And how long have you been staff for?
Oh,
A wee while?
let me put it like this, nearly as long as you've been born.
Oh,
I've been on staff here for 20 years, I think.
oh brilliant.
Children's ministry, before doing what Rebecca does and Esther do now, and then pastoral care since that. So, yeah, over 20 years I've been here and on staff. And I was thinking about today how long we've been actually in Glenabbey. That's a bit scary.
Oh, wow.
We've been in Glenabbey since 1995, I think, we arrived here. So, yeah, a wee while.
Brilliant.
A day or two.
Brilliant.
I
Well,
think maybe I'm the person that's here. That, you know, the way you said you were here, the token older person. I think it's me. I don't think it's you, unless you're older than me. But
no, it's all right. I think it's you and me, Madeline, to be honest now. I think that's why we're both here. But look, I very much want to hear about Renew. So it's an initiative. It's something that runs at Glenabbey Church.
Yeah.
So tell us about what you do, please.
Well, we do Renew. I'm part of the team that runs Renew. Renew is an exercise program that we run for women and for mums, and not mums in particular, but for, you know, there's mostly the mums we come to. We started it about 5 years ago, and it runs on a weekly basis. Before the pandemic, we also were involved in one of the schools in Ballyclare. Primary schools allowed us to go in and do with their parents, so some of the parents in there. Guys came to that. That was a bit odd the first time a guy came to one, but we had some guys come to that too, which was great. We also had, we're in with Sure Start and did some things with Sure Start as well. And then we ran Renew here as well. So it's really, we decided, I wrote down, I kind of had just put down why we called it Renew. Because the dictionary version of what it means is to make it like new, to restore to freshness, make new spiritually and regenerate. So that was why we thought we had called it Renew in the first place. And we could see that there was mums, women who were stressed and tired, being and isolated, I think, as well, and could see that they needed something, needed to exercise, wanted to exercise, but yet couldn't maybe afford to go to the gym, or hadn't got anybody else to go with. And so we started it in conjunction with our mums and tots, and invited the mums from there to come, and then leaflet drops and stuff like that we did, and we've been doing that ever since. So.
Okay, thank you. Tell us exactly what it is. I'm not sure if we get a couple of photographs to come up at this stage, or are those later?
I think they're later.
Later, okay.
Yeah.
Well, just describe to us what goes on.
Well, there's a little bit of exercise and a lot of chat, and a lot of chat, and a wee bit of banter, of course, and never goes amiss without banter. What we do is there's an exercise that Cheryl is our trainer mostly, and Esther's done a couple of things for us more recently, but she does the classes. That's an exercise class. A proper exercise class. And then the mums are there, the kids are there as well. The kids now, at the minute, we don't have any childcare. We did have childcare prior to COVID, but since that we haven't done any childcare. So the kids are there sitting, the kids go sit in the corner and play with the toys and stuff like that, and the mums do their exercise. And so that's what it is. Now we do, some of it, sometimes it's done in here, it depends on the numbers. It's done in here, they have their, they have the mats and all those kind of things out, and resistance bands and all that, and they do the exercise. And that it's about getting to know the mums. It's about getting to know people that we wouldn't normally get that opportunity to do. We kind of feel that sharing the gospel is difficult with people that you don't know. You need to have a relationship with people. Yes, sometimes, of course, the Lord works differently, but we've always found that relationship is the best way to go forward, and to get to know these mums that are not church mums. They're not members. Some of them are members here, but very few, very few. And they come along, and we get to know their circumstances. We get to know about their families and their financial circumstances, their marriages or not their marriages, as whatever way it goes. But and then it means that it's great that they will actually call on us when they need something, they need help. And it's been a privilege to be able to sit in a corner and pray with somebody because they're going through a really tough time. To get to know them better, to be able to invite them to things that are on here in church, so that they're happy to come into the church building, and it's not just a scary place, but that they can see that we're not scary people either, and that we like to have fun, and we like to have to exercise and have all sorts of things going on, but we can also be real with them and show them God's love through what we do.
Okay, thank you, Madeline. Are we done, or is there anything else that you would like to say to us?
I don't know. Well, I mean, if you see Renew in the events bit now, whenever you go into book into something, you'll know what it is. You'll not think, what on earth's that? But you'll know what it's about. And if you would like to come along, or you know somebody who could benefit from
Just remind us exactly when it is.
Oh, sorry, I forgot about that minor detail. Now it's on a Thursday morning. It's on Thursday from 9:30 to 10:30. And is when it runs every week. We do different things. Sometimes we go for a walk. We've done our 5K. We've been doing our 5Ks, and we've done that for a while. We're back in at the minute because it's too cold for the kids at the minute, to be honest, just to be outside and so on. So we're being in here between venue one or else in here. And so if you would like to be part of it, feel free, go in, book in. Or if you know somebody else that could benefit from it, please feel free to say to them, contact me if you want. And also, if you would like to help with it, that would be amazing as well. Most weeks there's like 3 of us in total. There's me and Cheryl and Esther. And so if you wanted to come along and help out with it, be part of it so that you can join in with the mums and join in with the kids or whatever, that would be great. You'd be really, really welcome.
Okay, thank you so much. Can we say thank you to Madeline? Thank you. Now, Mr. Andy Seymour, you're sort of hiding in the dark out there, to be honest. You've managed to duke out of the floodlights, but nice to see you.
And you?
And Andy, would you like to say a little bit to introduce yourself to these good folks, please?
Yeah, I am Andy. I am 24. 24 now. I'm a primary school teacher. I'm currently teaching P5 in Carnmoney. I'm getting married in a few weeks.
I was hoping you were going to get onto that.
To that beautiful woman over there.
Yay!
He's less excited about it than I am.
That is super. Thank you very much. How long have you been coming along to Glenabbey Church?
As long as I can remember. I'm sure I've been here 20 years now. Don't really remember much before Glenabbey.
Life before Glenabbey.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've been indoctrinated into the Glenabbey way of things, have you, to a certain degree? Okay, so tell me where you're serving at the minute. What group are you on? How do you help out?
So recently Anna and myself came on to sort of look in how we could get involved, and we were approached by the young adults team, and along with a few other guys, we came on board with the team that sort of puts together events and things like that. And most recently, we were kind of thinking of ways that we could get involved. And something that just came to mind, as you can see behind, was to get folks out and about and a bit of running, a bit of walking. As the world is at the minute, inside stuff is hard to predict. Whereas we have the beauties of Northern Ireland is we have so many cool spots that we can go and run around and walk around. So I think the idea came about because, like many of us, I was fed up, stuck inside for a year. Anyone who knows me knows that it's not a good idea. The more exercise I can get, the better. And I spent time dodging haircuts by going out for runs. For those that know, there's an app, Strava, that tracks your runs, and I could see a lot of guys that were involved in church also getting out, getting active, and I thought, let's just do this together. Why would we all run separately when there's a great opportunity here to meet up, as Madeline said, build relationships with folks, and hopefully it's a way to break in for people. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And you've obviously found sort of both people who run, but people who maybe dander while you've been running these sort of last couple of weeks. Is that true?
Yeah, exactly. I am not a runner, and I do not want to call myself that. So this is very much a casual, enjoyment-based rather than setting records. We are under the watchful eye of Richard, who is our Sherpa. He takes us around all the different trails. So far we've been to Woodburn, and recently we're in Ballyboley there yesterday morning. So, but this is for everyone. This is not an elite running group. This is for folks that have never laced up a pair of running shoes before, and those guys that like to get out and about. As you can see, we had some friends join us as well, of the furry kind. So again, this is just, if you don't really fancy a run, but you've got an hour to bring the dog down and have a walk, that is by all means a great idea too.
Okay, thank you. So you've been to Woodburn and Ballyboley. Have you another one planned, or how would, if anybody is interested in pitching in with your group, how would they get in touch and find out what's coming next?
Yes, so we are 2 weeks into what is initially a 6-week endeavour, and we are going to Cave Hill next week. Ooh. Which is, let's say, more of a hike than a run, because I certainly don't want to run up Cave Hill. But yes, we kick off at 9:30.
Okay.
And we have a big young adults chat where we put in the details and things like that. So obviously 9:30 in young adults language is 10 o'clock. Yeah. So usually aim for 9:30, but I'd be very surprised if we get out much before 10 o'clock. But again, if you are, it is at this stage limited to young adult. I'll let you decide what the upper threshold of a young adult is. But we would love to have as many come along as we could.
Okay, just one piece of advice for you, probably around Cave Hill. So I would just check carefully what Richard's got in store. So I did meet Richard a couple of, I'm going to say a few Mondays ago probably, for what I thought was a walk around Cave Hill. But I didn't realise that you needed to use both your hands and your feet whenever you went out on a walk. And I think I was broken for possibly at least a couple of days afterwards. So anyway, so I'm just saying, just check out carefully what Richard's got in store for you whenever you get that far. So good advice. Okay, again, appreciation to Mr. Andrew Simeon. Thank you. Okay, the old grunters on this side then, basically. Happy days. And get me own back in Richard and Robert, because Robert's from Ballymena. I've known Robert for a very long time, so we just like to dish a little bit of abuse here and every so often. So, Robert, you're going to take the lead on this. So you're here tonight as you are a member of which golf club?
Royal Portrush.
Okay, and just for the benefit of everybody else, as you are one of our visitors, can you just maybe tell me a little bit about yourself to introduce yourself to everybody else?
Okay, yes, as Keith says, I'm Robert. I'm from Ballymena originally, and originally I got to know Richard at university, and we've been friends ever since, and it's almost cost me my life on several occasions, but I'm still here. And then got to know Keith and the Jackson and McBride families and the other families who look after me from here as well, shortly after that.
Okay, thank you very much. So we want to turn our attention to, I suppose, something that took place at Royal Portrush Golf Club. And again, you're going to have to put a time on that, because I've lost years over COVID, as I'm sure you have. But if you could maybe put a bit of time frame.
You wish you'd lost years, Keith. Well, I suppose it goes back potentially to August or September 2018. I met with John Kirkpatrick, the minister of Portrush Presbyterian, one afternoon, and we just were having a wide-ranging discussion over coffee about lots of things, and the Open coming up, and what could be done, etc., etc. And then a wee bit later on, I think maybe with Anna and Susie as well, I played a few holes with Richard on the Valley at Royal Portrush, and on the second tee box, Richard said, "The Open's next year. What can we do?" So I suppose that spawned thought processes as to maybe is this a way of us developing more of a witness on site. There are lots of different age groups represented in any golf club. So, I mean, as you know yourself, there are some incredibly talented juniors. There are some teenagers and guys in their 20s who are...
JB. All right, behave.
Sorry. Who are proper golfers, but in any golf club dynamic, you have a lot of folk maybe in their 50s and 60s who have come to the club. I overheard one person say one day a year or two ago, he said, "Well, I've got my occupation," and he named it, "and I've got my golf. Sure, what else do I need?" But very often folk who are coming towards the end of their working lives, as they've gone through their 20s, 30s, 40s, they've thought to themselves, well, when I get the wife, when I get the family, when I get the car, when I get the house, when I get the promotion, when I become the chief executive, then I'll have got there, I will be satisfied. Only to find when they get there, they're not satisfied. So I think there's a large demographic in any golf club like that potentially we can tap into. So we put our heads together with the help of Christians in Sport, Phil and Alan McCluggage at that time. We put on a quiz just because the Open was coming, we put on an open quiz back in May of 2019, which I think was very well received. Richard came up with the excellent idea of inviting a team to come from the pro shop, from the bar staff, from greenkeepers, and from every other department, and I think that worked very well. And we're hoping to repeat that. We were hoping to repeat it in November, but as everybody knows, it's very difficult to get catering staff and waiting staff, and Royal Portrush was no different. So 25th of March, we're hoping to go again with another one. And just need to see where this leads in over the next 5-10 years.
Absolutely. Very, very, very encouraging. Richard, have you any sort of comment that you'd like to make just in relation to this from your perspective?
Probably ties into what Emma was saying. It's a bit of a statement. You're putting yourself or your head above the parapet a wee bit and say, listen, this is what I stand for, this is what I'm about. And you're just opening the door. You're not pushing anybody, but you're just making yourself available potentially. And it is people like yourself, Keith and Robert, and other Christian friends within the club as well. So it's been strategic and thoughtful. And as Robert has also alluded to, it's not about this one-off quiz, this event. It's a long game. It sort of connects with golf, but it is a long game and a long to see what influence you can have over a period of time and just reaching out to people.
Sure. Robert?
Yes, I was just going to say it's about developing relationships, and that's the same for all the guys there as well. It's interesting, I was a visitor in a different church last Sunday, and I came in the middle of a series in Esther. And they were talking about Esther 3 and 4, and in particular focusing on verse 14 of chapter 4. So Haman has hatched a plan to destroy the Jews. Mordecai has suggested to Esther, who's in the palace, you need to go and talk to the king. Esther said, if I go to the king uninvited, I can lose my life. And Mordecai says, but God will win this battle. And he, for the Jews, but also for us. And he basically then says to Esther, either you can be involved or you won't, but God's going to win. And maybe God has put you here for a time such as this. And I think that's true for all of us in whatever sphere we're in. And obviously we're speaking of sporting sphere tonight, but it's true for all walks of life.
Okay, thank you so much. Just a final question, maybe, Robert, would be just obviously the quiz did take place. You're planning for another one. Any learning or anything that you would do or you're planning to do differently this time round?
I suppose we hadn't got that far in our planning because we had to back about September, we sort of postponed it. So I suspect in the next few weeks we'll need to get our heads together and plan where we go from there. I think it worked well the last time. Richard had contacted Bernard Langer and he gave us some video clips that we were able to use, and that was quite, the folk who were there were quite overwhelmed that someone like Bernard Langer would take the time to give his voice to a Christian event in a golf club. So we'll have to think just about what maybe other angles we can take on at this time.
Okay, well, thank you very, very much indeed. I'm going to hand back to Richard, maybe for any final remarks on this or to tell us what's coming next.
That's great. No, listen, that was good. Folks, is there anybody here who would like to ask any questions of the panel just before I kind of let them escape? Okay, no problem. Great. Guys, thank you very much. Give them a little bit of encouragement for
thank you
all
very much
help.
indeed.
Well, thanks very much indeed. That's great. So again, thanks Keith, and thank you everybody for your input. Just going to talk quite briefly now about what's going to happen next. And the influence of what happens next will depend on the feedback you give us tonight. And the sort of calendar we have for sports ministry is very much open to offers. We've got a couple of definites in the book. Hope you're right. Yeah, very good. Okay. First one is a sports quiz. This is going to be held on Saturday the 5th of March. It'll be open to the whole church, and it's an outreach opportunity. So very simply, just save the date, get some friends or mates together and plan to be there. As Phil's alluded to, Christians in Sports quiz are top quality and they're good crack. So that's as simple as that. Six Nations is almost upon us. And again, we're hoping to do a big screen showing. This is going to be the last, it'll be the Super Saturday of the series at the very end. Ireland against Scotland, it'll be shown in the church here. I don't know if Ireland will be in the mix for the championship. Let's hope they are, but we also might be staving off the wooden spoon. But either way, it's Irish rugby, so it's always worth a watch. A couple of other things that are already, I've mentioned these already tonight. Young Adults Running Group, Saturday the 5th of February, 9:30, Cave Hill. I think, Andy, is the plan. It'll probably be more walking than running, and that's fair to say. Top tip as well regarding this group. Yesterday in particular, I have to say the coffee and the treats were outstanding. So, Renew, Madeline's mentioned it already, and the Youth for Christ football, all being well, middle of February this is starting. If anyone would like to help with that, please speak to John. And then this is stuff that's not sort of in the calendar as yet, but we're kind of going to discuss it and maybe look at some possibilities. This is one we've been asked about quite a bit. We did a Glenabbey Golf Day in Ballyclare a couple of years ago. It was hosted, it was an outreach event, and it was also a fundraiser for Hope 365, and we're hoping to maybe put that back in the calendar as well for this year. Fitness classes, we were hoping BreakFit might be up and going again, but unfortunately Omicron has had a few other plans in that regard, but again, that's a possibility as well. Walking football, JB I know is on the ball with this one. It may be for people of a certain age, but it is actually a very popular sport, so watch out for that. And open water swimming, I think, was it Rebecca was mentioning this, that potentially that this may be a possibility also, so again, watch this space. We'll also keep a little bit of an eye on the global calendar. There's always stuff that maybe has got potential. I think the FIFA World Cup at the end of the year may also some opportunities for outreach. So very quickly, in a couple of minutes there, guys, you'll realize there is any amount of possibility and opportunity for anybody who's interested. And your level of interest could be anything from, I just want to be kept informed, or actually, do you know what, I would like to be involved in this kind of stuff.